It's so nice to talk to you today, for one thing. I'm so honored to meet you and talk to you. And this is a really thorough, interesting film. I had a lot of questions about your life. I knew a bit about you because I knew Rob Stewart and that he had filmed part of Sharkwater when he was with you in Costa Rica, and that's shown in this film. But I did have many more questions, and I'm happy to say that they are almost all answered in this film. It's a very thorough look at you and the good work that you do.
Bringing Rob on board our vessel in 2002, he joined, and I really had no idea what he was doing, and then he turned out this incredible film, Sharkwater.
I'd like to start with something that happens fairly early in the film, and that's in the 1960s and 70s, when you discover that whales are still being killed. And I thought that in the 1800s, when they discovered kerosene, that whales were no longer killed for their oil, but you discovered otherwise. And I was wondering, is this something that's still going on today?
Whales primarily today are being killed for meat for the Japanese market, but in the 70s, of course, they were still being killed for oil. For many uses. Not many people are aware that during World War I that thousands of tons of whale oil were used in munitions and for various, aspects of weaponry. But that hadn't changed in the 70s because the Russians were killing sperm whales primarily for spermaceti oil, which is a high heat resistant lubricating oil. And one of the things that it was used for was in the construction of intercontinental ballistic missiles, and which I thought, here we are destroying this incredibly beautiful, self-aware, intelligent creature for the purpose of making a weapon meant for the mass extermination of human beings. And that's when it occurred to me that we're totally insane when it comes to, our outlook on ecology and the natural world.
And then you co-found Greenpeace, and I liked your analogy of not being able to stand there, hang a banner, and just take some pictures. And today, when people use their cell phones to take videos of other people being harmed, and they post it on the internet, we ridicule that. So I just want to say that it's incredible that you as a person personally cannot watch that and just stand there and watch while an atrocity is being committed, and I have to commend you on that.
Well, thanks. I've never been really a protester. To me, it's always was very submissive. So that's why I set up Sea Shepherd to be an interventionist group, which is what we've been doing for 42 years.
You also mentioned in the film that sharks are essential to phytoplankton, which provides us with 80% of the oxygen that we breathe in the world today, and that 40% has been diminished in the last 50 or so years. I want to ask, are environmentalists making any headway in this? Is our climate and oceans going to be saved?
That's a difficult question because world leaders just seem to be very disinterested in trying to solve the problem. It all comes down to our present economic political systems, which are all, centered on short-term investment for short-term gain, and people really don't look ahead into the future very much. But the oceans are dying. Since 1950, we've had a 40% diminishment in phytoplankton, and a lot of that has to do with the diminishment of whales and marine animals like seabirds and others, which provide the nutrient base for phytoplankton. And phytoplankton is the foundation of life on this planet. If phytoplankton disappears in the ocean, we go extinct. We don't survive on this planet without it. It provides 70% of the oxygen that we breathe. In fact, so many things in our environment are absolutely essential for our survival, but we just take it for granted. We're unconcerned to the destruction that we're causing. I guess the best way to describe this is if you look at the planet as a spaceship, which is what it is really, and it's on this incredible voyage around the Milky Way galaxy. And every spaceship has a life support system. And that life support system provides us with food and the air we breathe and regulates climate and temperature. And that life support system is run by a crew that maintains and keeps everything running. We're not crew members, we're passengers. We're having a wonderful time entertaining ourselves. But what we are doing is we're killing crew members. And there's only so many crew members you can kill before the machinery begins to break down. And that's what's happening. And that's why I always say when the ocean dies, we all die. We don't live on this planet with a dead ocean.
I have to say, when I was watching this, and you have to deal with a lot of very ignorant people, and they're just out for their own greed, it was really frustrating for me. I was wondering, how much of a toll has it taken on you over your lifetime?
It hasn't taken any toll on me at all. I don't really I don't concentrate on the future. Many years ago, I learned a very valuable lesson from a very wise man. It was 1973 during the occupation of Wounded Knee in South Dakota by the American Indian Movement. I had volunteered to be a medic for the American Indian Movement. And we were surrounded and being shot at. About 3,000 federal agents were shooting at us. They had wounded 46 people. They had killed 2. And I went to Russell Means, who was the leader of the American Indian Movement. I said, we don't have any chance. The odds are against us. We cannot win this thing. And what he said to me really stayed with me for the rest of my life. He said, look, we're not here because we're concerned about the odds against us. And we're not concerned about winning or losing. We're here because it's the right thing to do, the right place to do it, and the right time to do it. Focus on the present. The present will define the future. Don't worry about the future. If you put all your energies into your actions in the present, that will determine what the future will be.
Well, that sounds like great advice. Due to the Interpol Red Notice, you had to step away from the helm of Sea Shepherd, but you are still involved, as I understand it from the movie. And you have many other captains who you are guiding in this project and this fight to save the oceans and the earth. Does this give you a sense of peace that there are other people who are like you, who are out there fighting for the same thing?
Japan did us a great service in 2012 when they came after me personally, because what I discovered there was that, you can stop an individual and you can even shut down an organization, but you can't stop a movement. So Sea Shepherd evolved into a movement. We're in 42 countries now, and they're all separate entities. We have 12 ships. We have about 200 volunteers out there on those ships right now. And so our leadership is now really dozens of captains and directors, and we're doing so many campaigns, I can't even keep track of them. So, it's not that I stepped down. I'm just part of it now. I'm not dominant over it, but I'm part of it. And that's the thing I'm most proud of with Sea Shepherd, is having created a movement, because a movement is forever.
Where does the funding for Sea Shepherd come from?
From private donations from people all around the world. We don't really bring in a lot of money considering what we do, because we don't spend money to make money. We don't invest in direct mail or door-to-door solicitations or things like that. We don't spend money on advertising. It's word of mouth. But what we do have is an incredibly loyal following. And so that's what supplies it. Our capital investment, that is buying a ship, usually comes down to one individual. The Bob Barker was purchased for us by Bob Barker. The Sam Simon, the creator of The Simpsons, purchased the Sam Simon for us. The Ocean Warrior, which is the one ship that we actually had built, we had built with the proceeds from the Dutch Postal Code lottery, actually, that they gave to us. So, but the actual running the day-to-day thing is from people all over the world.
Now, if I understood this correctly, a lot of the climate change that we're experiencing today is as a result from what is happening in the ocean. Is that correct?
Yes, back in 2015 at the COP21 conference in Paris, I was given the opportunity to speak. Of course, nobody was going to listen to me, but what I did say at the time was that if we want to address climate change, we simply have to allow the ocean the opportunity to repair the damage that we did to it. So what we really need is a 50-year moratorium on all commercial industrialized fishing. We have to shut that down because by 2048, there won't be any fishing industry anyway, because there won't be any fish. And so we really have to address that. And I that those are the predictions of Dr. Boris Worm and Dr. Daniel Pauly. I personally think it's about 2030. So we really have to take action on that. Coral reefs are dying. There's so many threats to survival of diversity in the ocean, whether it be pollution, radioactivity, plastic, overfishing, illegal fishing. 40% of all of the fishing in the world is actually illegal. And so that we're trying to concentrate on that. And what Sea Shepherd has done over the last 6 years is to form partnerships with various governments around the world. So we're actually policing their waters, the waters in Peru and Mexico, Liberia, Tanzania, Namibia, Gabon, São Tomé, Cape Verde. And what that does is we provide the resources, the volunteers, and they give us the authority. And just in the last year alone, we've seized 54 fishing vessels, illegal fishing vessels in African waters. And I'm quite confident if it wasn't for our interventions in partnership with the Mexican Navy, that the Vaquita porpoise would now be extinct.
As I was watching this, I was thinking, if I was, in my 20s or something, I would be like, how do I join Sea Shepherd? So how can people join Sea Shepherd as a volunteer or a crew member? How does that come about?
Well, you don't have to be in your 20s. The oldest crew member he had was a woman from England. She was 87. But we have people from all over the world. Like I said, there's about 200 people right now from 25 different countries that are on board the vessels. So anybody can apply to either work on the ships or be a shore volunteer or to be a contributor.
And what do shore volunteers do? What would their job be?
We have chapters around the world and really both education and fundraising.
What can the average person do to help just in our day-to-day life if we're not part of Sea Shepherd?
Oh, many things. Well, it's really how people live. One of the Sea Shepherd ships, by the way, are all vegan vessels. And the reason being is that we're not going to just preach the solutions. We have to live them. And, the meat industry, the slaughter of 65 billion animals every year is a major contributor to greenhouse gases, more so than the transportation industry. And so it's also the leading cause of groundwater pollution and dead zones in the ocean. So that's the first step. And also it's a major cause of zoonotic transmission of viruses. These factory farms are like petri dishes, really. So that's one thing, is by changing our diets. And but also the understanding that each and every one of us can make a difference. But we just have to apply what our skills and our abilities are to make this a better world. And because the strength of an ecosystem is in diversity, therefore the strength of any movement has to be in diversity. So whether that approach be education or litigation or legislation or direct action, it all works towards the same end. So really the answer to that is get involved.
I think at one point in the film you were saying that you were picking out plastic from the ocean. How much plastic is in there? What can we do about plastic to make sure that it doesn't go in there?
Well, we should eliminate plastic completely, especially for single usage of plastic. The amount of plastic in the seas right now is just incredible, and soon in a few years there'll be more plastic than fish. And it's a toxic material. What it does break down. It breaks down into microplastics, and that it gets into the food chain. I mean, if you eat fish, you're pretty much probably ingesting microplastics. And of course, the microplastics come from other sources, from many sources. For instance, automobile tires, a major contributor to microplastic, because you lose tiny bits of rubber on the roads from millions and millions of cars, and eventually that gets washed into the ocean. There's microplastics in clothing, microplastics in cosmetics, in addition to actually single-use plastics things there. So we really have to eliminate it. It's a design flaw right from the very beginning that should be eliminated.
I read somewhere that you were part of a kindness club. Is that correct? And were the other children like-minded?
Well, the wife of the conservative premier of New Brunswick, Ida Fleming, was the founder of the Kindness Club in New Brunswick. And I was a member of the Kindness Club, and so were many other children. In fact, Ida Fleming later referred to me as the hitman for the Kindness Club. But so there were a lot of children who were involved in that. I think I took it to heart probably more than most. I remember Dixie Lee Ray, the governor of Washington, and she wrote a book, and she said, evidence of Watson's insanity can be found in the fact that when he was 12 years old, he shot a boy in the rear end who was about to shoot a bird. Any boy who would shoot another boy to protect a bird is insane. And I said, well, look, Dixie, in my town, every kid shot every other kid with a BB gun. I just happened to have a practical reason to shoot the kid that I did.
I love that story. Thank you so much for talking to me today. And I have to say again, this is a tremendous film. There is so much for people to take away from this. It is not only an educational experience, but it's very, very entertaining and enlightening. And I just want to say thank you for all the good work that you've done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.